Hello, I'm Captain Sandwich, and today I'm going to be paying tribute to what I personally believe to be one of the all-time greats among American animated TV shows. It's Avatar: The Last Airbender. I find this show to be epic, engaging, funny, beautiful, and even sobering at times. This is a show I keep coming back to over and over again. I just finished my third run through the series, and I'm strongly considering starting over again. Rarely have I ever been that dedicated to a TV show before or since. So I think it's only fair that I honor it, and in my case this is going to be by showcasing 10 examples of what makes this show so awesome. Here are my top 10 Avatar: The Last Airbender episodes. Quick side note before we start, this video is assuming that either you've seen the whole show or you don't care to. There will be an abundance of spoilers, so if you don't want anything in the show spoiled for you, turn back now. If you're still with me, let's dive in.
There's an airbender in our presence, and not just any airbender. The Avatar. Tomorrow, the Avatar will face 3 deadly challenges. Those delightful rings are made of pure genomite, also known as creeping crystal. By nightfall, your friends will be completely covered in it. Terrible fate, really. I can stop it, but only if you cooperate.
I'll do what you want.
These first few are going to be much more personal taste. The King of Omashu wasn't the most memorable episode, but I really have to commend the creativity and the humor in this one because that's what really keeps my attention. First of all, I love the idea of a hero having to overcome a set series of obstacles, like the 3 deadly challenges in this episode. You can get really creative with that concept, and Avatar definitely does. Each of the challenges is unique, and as Aang points out at the end of the episode, he had to think differently than he normally would in order to complete them. I also really love the humor in The King of Omashu. This episode goes for a much more anti-humor route, and while that may be off-putting to some people, I adore anti-humor, so the jokes in here always get me laughing. Lastly, I love the character of King Bumi. He's completely nuts and unpredictable, but that's what makes him so much fun to spend time with. Even when you look back at the flashback sequence of when Bumi was Aang's age, you're just left wondering how this crazy troublemaking kid was ever granted a seat of power. The fact that they never address that question and instead just leave you to wonder just adds to the hilarity of the whole thing. So again, not an episode everybody thinks about when they think Avatar, but I certainly do because it was a lot of fun and I always find myself going back to it. Onward to number 9.
Blood bending. Controlling the water in another body. Once you perfect this technique, you can control anything or anyone.
But to reach inside someone and control them? I don't know if I want that kind of power.
We're the last waterbenders of the Southern Tribe. We have to fight these people whenever we can, wherever they are, with any means necessary.
This, for those who don't know, was Avatar's Halloween special, and boy do they know how to celebrate the holiday. The Puppet Master is unnerving in all the right ways. Personally, I'm a huge fan of creepypasta, especially involving kids shows. Anytime you can take something from my childhood and turn it into nightmare fuel, I'm there. This episode is just about what I would expect an Avatar creepypasta to be like, and the fact that they actually did it on the show just blows me away. And honestly, this episode introduces a concept that just gets creepier and creepier the more you think about it. The fact that waterbenders can control water from anywhere, especially from within the human body, raises a lot of interesting and disturbing possibilities. Just think about it for a little bit and see what else you can come up with, especially in relation to bloodbending. The possibilities are unsettlingly endless. But back on track, this was an episode that really proved the power of this show's writing. They already showed that they had dramatic and comedic writing in the bag, and now they could add horror writing to that list as well. This was an episode that knew just what pace to take, just what words to choose, and just what sound effects to insert to make you squirm in your seat from beginning to end. And I just love it.
Jet, the Earth King has invited you to Lake Laogai. to accept his invitation. I know my own destiny, Uncle.
Is it your own destiny? Or is it a destiny someone else has tried to force on you?
Stop it, Uncle. I have to do this.
I'm begging you, Prince Zuko. It's time for you to look inward and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And what do you want?
Also known as the Return of Appa, and that is half the reason why I love this episode. The show spent a lot of time on Appa being lost. They built up the emotion really well, especially the rage that Aang was feeling at losing what was essentially his best friend from growing up, and also his longest friendship, and now all that emotion pays off, and it is wonderful. I also love how they did it by connecting it to Zuko's moral dilemma. Initially, Zuko goes after Appa to capture him and hopefully lure in the Avatar, but after being confronted by his uncle in one of Iroh's more emotional scenes in the show, Zuko actually sets Appa free. This all led to the final scene of Zuko throwing away the blue spirit mask, which I really loved. I was always fascinated by the idea that this whole time Zuko was going against the Fire Nation in disguise. You can read a lot into that as far as how he feels about his homeland, and that at some capacity he felt the need to go against it. And this led into Zuko's final transformation, as it came to be that he no longer needed a mask in order to serve the side of good. This episode also features Jet's final appearance in one of the rare prominent deaths on the show. The way they do it is really powerful. Overall, this is a powerful episode, and it leaves you with a lot of different emotions. Relief to have Appa back, pride in Zuko's decisions, and sadness at the death of Jet. It once again really showcases the writing skill this show has to offer.
I was in Ba Sing Se. I was there. But I lost. And now the Earth Kingdom has fallen for good.
It's not for good. Remember, there's still a plan. The invasion.
And I hate the invasion plan too. I don't want you or anyone else risking your lives to fix my mistakes. I've always known that I would have to face the Fire Lord. But now I know I need to do it alone.
If I had to sum up the theme of The Awakening in one word, it would be failure. In this episode, Aang is forced to deal with the failure of being defeated at Ba Sing Se. At the same time, Zuko has to deal with the inward failure of betraying his uncle and doing what he knew the whole time was wrong. They deal with both issues just perfectly. I love seeing a more disgruntled, disheveled Aang. It shows that this war and responsibility are really getting to him, and now that he feels like he failed the world a second time, it's just that much more intense. The voice acting in this episode really stands out. The authenticity of these actors is just impeccable. Katara, when confronting her dad about leaving, sounds like a real, confused, hurt daughter crying out for her dad. There is so much emotion poured into this episode, and it is just beautiful. You really feel for these people as they're struggling to deal with their pain and confusion and anger. Then Aang gets a pep talk from Avatar Roku and Princess Yue, which reinvigorates him and leads to probably one of my favorite music cues in the entire show. This one always gets my blood pumping. Seriously, put that on loop for like 10 minutes and I will gladly download it. Bottom line, this is a spine-chilling and intense episode that addresses issues that are not necessarily immediately resolved. A lot of what's introduced here is left hanging for a while, which is rare to see in kids shows. Definitely one of the more mature episodes the series has to offer, and definitely one of my favorites.
You're not welcome here, Avatar.
Why not? Aang helps people.
It's true. I'm on your side.
I find that hard to swallow, considering what you did to us in your past life. It was Avatar Kyoshi. She murdered our glorious leader, Chin the Great.
You think that I murdered someone? I need you guys to help prove my innocence.
How are we gonna do that? The crime happened over 300 years ago.
That's okay, Sokka. For some reason, I thought you were an expert detective.
Well, I guess I could be classified as such. I'm ready. What?
As far as tone goes, I'm not sure I could have had much more of a contrast between this episode and the previous entry on this list. This is one of the more lighthearted episodes of the series, and as such provides a lot of really memorable smiles and laughs. This episode relies on a murder mystery feel in order to keep the viewer's attention, and it certainly does its job. Avatar Day is just pure fun. My favorite part in terms of comedy is Sokka attempting to be this Sherlock Holmes-esque detective and constantly being outdone by Katara and trying so hard to be the first one to prove the point. It makes for some terrific comedic timing that always gets me laughing. This episode isn't all fun and games, though. The secondary plot involves Zuko being dissatisfied with poverty and using the Blue Spirit to steal from well-off Earth Kingdom citizens. It all leads to yet another wonderfully constructed confrontation by Iroh, this time about being content and not giving up hope for a good life. It doesn't take up very much of the episode, but it's still a very nice addition. There's not a whole lot to say on this one, mostly because the humor, and the drama for that matter, really speak for itself. One of the few episodes that'll just leave you smiling all the way through. Well, that's it for the first half of this list. I hope you enjoyed it, and part 2 will be coming up soon. Until then, I'm Captain Sandwich, signing out.